Hello, everybody. Greetings of the festive season. Happy to be back again with a new module in our series on communication skills and personality development. Today, we are going to learn about something very interesting that will definitely help us to become effective communicators. So let's start right away. Just give me a second as I bring the presentation to you. Well, here we are. Okay, so what is this new and interesting thing that we are going to learn today? And this is, as you can see on the screen, the very happening field of neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming is a new way of looking at communication skills, at communicating in our personal and professional lives. As the name itself indicates, it looks at combining the fields of neurology and linguistics and focuses on the way in which our brains process, acquire, and use language. Well, what exactly is neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP? As I've already mentioned, this field looks at communication as a kind of programming, as a kind of very systematic application of neurological and linguistic signs and symbols. Let us look at it in a little more detail. We know that communication happens both within us and outside us all the time. We communicate both with others and with our own selves, primarily using the 5 senses: the sight, the sound, smell, taste, and touch. We know that our 5 sensory organs carry signals to the brain. And it is the brain which processes these signals with the help of the entire neurobiological system and then gives us the appropriate responses, which we translate into linguistic signs and symbols, that is, oral and written words. This approach to communication through a focus on how the sense organs, the brain, and the linguistic system function together is known as neuro-linguistic programming. Now, to get a better perspective of this, as you can see on the screen, neuro-linguistic programming has 3 aspects. The neurological aspect, definitely, which includes how the brain processes sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. The linguistic approach, through which the responses given by the brain are converted into language. This is how meaning is given to our unconscious processes, to our conscious and subconscious processes as well. And finally, programming. How do we organize our ideas and actions, our responses, how we adapt and change according to the situations as we communicate with the help of neurological and linguistic processes. Now, as you can see on the screen, NLP is extremely useful in various fields as we communicate. It may be business, health, medicine, counseling communication, sports, and education. If you understand the techniques of NLP and try to apply them in different spheres of communication, you can be a much better communicator. Now, NLP has got 4 main pillars. What are these? The first one is rapport, that is connection or negotiation. Having a healthy relationship with ourselves and with the world outside, being able to connect. Sensory awareness, what and how. Being able to observe and perceive the world correctly through our senses and being accurate, sharp, and prompt in our responses. Outcome thinking. This means focusing on the response that you will get after you communicate, or focusing on the end result of your communication. And behavioral flexibility, that means changing our communication patterns, not only according to the sensory awareness, according to the neurological processes, according to the linguistic systems, but also according to the new situations around us so that we get a better results. Now, we are going to look at two major aspects of NLP, modality and predicate. Let us look at what modality is first. Modality is the way we understand and remember things, the way we make a mental map of the world around us. In other words, this is the unique way in which each of us, each of our brains receives messages from our five sense organs, visualizes the world around us on the basis of these messages from the five sense organs, and then gives an appropriate reaction or response. So we can have visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, or gustatory modalities. These are the five modalities with the acronym VACOG, VAKOG. So when we visualize things primarily using the sense of sight, it can be referred to as visual modality. Hearing, auditory, sense of touch, kinesthetic, sense of smell, olfactory, and sense of taste, that is gustatory. Now, the three primarily modalities which we use 60% of the time as we communicate are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. That means most people process the world around them through the sense of sight, hearing, and touch. 40% of the time we use secondary modalities, that is olfactory and gustatory, the sense of smell and the sense of taste. Now, we come to the second core term, that is predicate. Now, predicate is the sensory digital word or phrase that helps to identify a person's modality. That means, how do you know what is the dominant modality a person has? How do you identify it? That is through the linguistic system, that is the words and the phrases that the person uses. Now, these indicate how the person primarily visualizes the world around them. That is, how do they usually communicate? How best do they understand things? So those who have a visual predicate would use words like see, look, view, and dream more in their communication. Similarly, each predicate has certain keywords: auditory, hear, ask, vocal; kinesthetic, touch, smooth, start from scratch; olfactory, aromatic, bitter, sweet, spicy, sweet smell of success, taste for danger. These are words which indicate olfactory or gustatory predicates. Now, this is just an indicative list, but it would have made things clear to you. People who use these keywords very often have the corresponding predicates. That is, they understand best when they are communicated to using these modalities. Now, a person's modality can be known by listening to his predicates. Just some examples, a little more elaboration on what we have seen so far. So, a visual person. Most people, that is a high number, around 40%, understand things better and prefer to communicate things using visual modality. So these are their characteristics. They have a high voice. They look at the world in pictures and visions. They use a lot of hand movements and gestures. They speak loud and fast, and they remember sights very well. The auditory person, 20% of us fall into this category, have a deep and vibrating voice. They talk slowly. They use small gestures, but they are very sharp at hearing and remembering and listening. Kinesthetic persons, another 40% are kinesthetic. That means they have a deep abdominal voice, talk very slowly, and usually have gestures moving towards the down and the right, but they remember things through doing, through touch, through the actual experience. Now, NLP teaches us that we can modify communication according to a person's modality in order to make it effective. For example, if your boss has a visual modality, then if you are making a presentation to him, the best thing would be to use a lot of pictures, to put things on paper, to describe things graphically. If your boss has an auditory modality, then you need to be a good orator and to use lots of audios and spoken elements. For a kinesthetic boss, maybe you can provide the actual experience, take the person to the place, and then explain what your plan or project is. So, this is where neuro-linguistic programming comes into play. When you know the modality, use the suitable predicate. So, it's very easy if we know the modality. But when you do not, you can safely use auditory predicates. For large audience, you can use a mixture of visual, auditory, and kinesthetic predicates. This can be very helpful for us in our communication as professionals, students, teachers, and so on. So use a good mixture of pictures, of audios and videos, and try to give as far as possible a slice of, a bit of the actual experience. And people would definitely remember what you are trying to communicate and understand you better. So this is it for today. And I hope all of you have benefited from this very interesting field that we learned about today, neuro-linguistic programming. And let me hope that we put these things into practice as we communicate and think about our own modalities and predicates and the modalities and predicates of people we see around us. Thank you so much. Stay safe and take care until we meet again. Thank you.